I'm looking at that Uganda. I'm looking at that Uganda beyond President Yoweri Museveni. I'm looking at that Uganda where men and women of all dignity, they will all matter and everybody else will count, that no one will forever be treated under the basement and be taught Dunyankole, but rather, how can we have Ugandans who will be going to great hospitals that are well serviced, that men and women will go to hospitals and they will get medicine there, and that women, the poor women, will not go to labor and they will die because there was no light in that place. I'm looking at that Uganda where men and women will go to the judiciary systems in the courts, of judicature, and they will get justice, not because of the technical know who, but rather, how can somebody get justice for the fact that everybody is deserving justice because they are on the right side? I'm looking at that Uganda where parliament will matter. Parliament will decide what will be running in that Uganda. I look at that Uganda where men and women who are in the service of the army, they will care for the whole country and they will be protecting our borders, not protecting the citizens against leaders. I'm looking at that Uganda where men and women will rise up and get opportunities in the city of Kampala, but they will not go down to Kubo Lane and they don't have anything to do there. They're closing or window market because they don't have opportunities. They don't have, money to keep running, and there are many taxes which are levied on people who are trying, but rather the people who are rich, they are not taxed. I'm looking at that Uganda. I'm looking at that Uganda where everybody is going to be supported and they will do businesses and they would be given that opportunity to grow. That is the Uganda I'm looking at. I'm looking at that Uganda where oppositions will be able to not be blaming the other who is not doing what, and they will not be talking this politics of, name calling, but rather, how can they give an alternative view that will transform the lives of Ugandans? That is the Uganda I'm looking at. I'm looking at that Uganda. I'm looking at that Uganda where the road will be made. Even when the leaders die today, the road will still be there 100 years from now, 50 years from now. Because look, if we do not do anything about the situations of that we find ourselves in, it will be your children and my daughter one day, they will be seated in a place like this and they will be talking about the issues that affect our common man. Because let me tell you, if you know that the ground hasn't moved off your feet and you have not smelled the coffee, let me tell you, even if you make tongues and the army against you or for you, and when the masses rise up, they will get what they want. No matter how many tongues or the army that you've created unto yourself, including the CDF who is your son, no matter how many they are and the tongues, you will forget the baton when the masses rise up. All I'm saying is Ugandans deserve better. And the sooner you begin to realize that they matter and you guys have to do the right thing for that country, that is the beginning of the transformation that we want in that country. That we will not be talking about tribes. We are not labeling people on the tribal lines. Tribal sentiments are not anything that matter right now, but how can Ugandans afford services that they deserve? That is the Uganda I'm looking at. I'm looking at that Uganda where children will go to school and they will study in the best facilities because government is providing it for them. I'm looking at that Uganda where taxes are levied heavily on the citizens and they are getting the services. That is the Uganda I'm looking at. It's not that Uganda where people are being maimed and we think it's okay. It's not okay. I'm looking at that Uganda. I'm looking at that Uganda where we are going to be men and women who are courageous to rise up and stand for the truth. And that should matter to all of us. And if you think you can make laws that favor one man or one family right now, sooner or later it's going to affect you and your children. And my child, definitely. Let's care for Uganda. Let's unite. All I'm asking for is this time where we are supposed to be talking about tourism, the beautiful Queen Elizabeth National Game Park. However, we should be able to change the name right now and change it to something that is our own, and we can identify with that. I wish to go and see Kidefo National Game Park. I wish to see Mazisha National Game Park. We should be celebrating and showing the bird species that we have in Uganda. We should be able to show that patriotism by the leaders doing the right thing. That is the conversation I want us to carry forward, where we all are going to account for every penny that Ugandans give you. Their hard-earned money, the money that they work their fingers to the bone to give that education to that child, that orphan who is deserving to go to school, but yet he is not given an opportunity because they haven't got no school fees. That is the Uganda we should be looking at, where they all have an opportunity to go to school and they study, and all of us matter, and every voices that are rising up. It is because Ugandans are pressed to the wall. It's between a rock and a wall plate. Far be it for me to talk about my country poorly, but rather, how can we get a conversation to talk right and to build that Uganda? That is the conversation we should be having today and right now. A Uganda beyond President Museveni. A Uganda where the men and women who are rising to follow a specific party, they are not going there for only money in their pockets, but rather, how can we build a Uganda which will remain as a legacy for the younger generations who are coming even after us? Because we all have a stake in that country. And let me tell you, no matter what you do to that country, Uganda is not going to go away. Me and you, we will go away, but Uganda will remain.